Hi dear friend, welcome in my new video. We are going to talk today about Dan Dao, and we're going to talk about Zhang Sanfeng and Taiji Neidan and how is the relationship between them. And for this we have to go a little bit deep into the life of Zhang Sanfeng and his relationship with other famous immortals and the role that he has in the development of Taoist culture. So I look forward to talk to you about this extensively, and I look forward to see your reactions afterwards. The best reaction would be to join our classes. For this video we definitely need to talk about Zhang Sanfeng. Zhang Sanfeng is a so-called founder of Taiji Neidan. And at the moment when we look at him, we also look at, of course, at the same time at Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma is supposed to be the founder of Chan Buddhism, Zen in Japanese. And his life story is a little bit not clear, because there was a Bodhidharma registered in China who was like a third-rate monk. And Bodhidharma, as the grandmaster from the Chan religion, actually didn't really exist, and as such this grandmaster also didn't really invent Shaolin boxing as a result of that. There is the story of Zhang Sanfeng, who supposedly has lived both in Shaolin as well as in Wudang Xian and many other places in China, who was a follower of Xiantian Daoism. Xiantian Daoism is basically the religion of Sun Wu and Jung, and that religion is an essential part of Taoist history over the last, say, 1000 to 2000 years at least. This man, though, was seen also as one of the last great alchemists, and then we talk about Neidan alchemy, of course, and the founder of Dan Dao practices. He is also supposedly the inventor of Taiji Neidan, and if that is really true or not, it doesn't really matter, but his theoretical framework is of course most important. The funny thing is that he is supposed to have lived in the Yuan and the Ming dynasty, and he is supposed to have lived for a period of over 200 years. And this is what for most historians of course is unbelievable, so as a result of that they don't consider him a valid resource. In the West especially, and in China itself, there are of course many resources, his poems, his treatises about alchemy, some of the texts that I have translated myself that you can find in the Shifu guide. And also there is a lot of discussion about his methods over the centuries, and I have translated some of these texts recently, and you will find them in the Shifu guide too, in the unit on Zhang Sanfeng. And one of the major things that he discusses is the Sin Sing Tu, the diagram of heart and nature. Heart and nature in that sense means different things. Nature therefore has to be explained in a more extensive way. At the moment, when we are talking about Taiji Neidan, we have to be able to understand that we talk about different aspects of Taiji Neidan and different origins and different histories, and also therefore different purposes. The main thing is that when we say Taiji Neidan is invented by Zhang Sanfeng, whether it's true or not, you can debate about that if you want. Within the Chinese history, he is seen as a real person, and he has been doing real things, and he has been writing things and so on, at least things that are ascribed to him. And you know, as good as I am understanding that history is, you know, not necessarily a fixed thing. At the moment when we look at the Taiji Neidan as it is most well known by most people, these are the family styles of Taiji Neidan, and these are usually warlord families or communities that are one way or the other relating to Taiji Neidan because one of their ancestors maybe went through the Wudang Mountains or another place where they learned Taiji Neidan, and they have gradually developed their own particular style. The main purpose for this was usually self-defense, fighting, warriorship, and so forth and so forth. So there are a lot of different kind of stories about that, and actually because of the reason that a lot of people nowadays, they don't need to fight anymore, the purpose of Taiji Neidan has gradually changed, and as a result of that, people are looking more for things like health, and they're looking for spirituality and so on, without necessarily knowing what it is about. Because you see, there is a big difference between how we approach this in the West and how they approach that in China traditionally, and we have to talk about that part too, because in the West we see that the health and the spirituality part is usually connected with Western medicine, Western physiotherapeutics, but also with Western esoterics and Western spirituality and Western psychotherapy. And as a result of that, people discuss very often the healing properties of Taiji Chuan in relationship to the mental problems that people have. Chinese medicine, period, doesn't do psychotherapy. This is just not a thing that happens. They can talk through, for instance, I Ching studies and I Ching oracle or I Ching analysis. We can talk about all kind of issues and patterns and all kind of stuff, but we do not really have per se that kind of psychoanalysis thing in Chinese culture or in Chinese medicine or in Tai Chi Kung Fu. At least not that I ever noticed in China. Even though people sometimes complain about their life, they don't think to resolve that per se in a psychotherapeutic way. So if somebody talks psychotherapy, if he says this is a Taoist or whatever, you already know, like, okay, this must be somebody who is a Westerner, who is fantasizing a little bit and is projecting qualities inside Tai Chi Chuan. The fact that Tai Chi Chuan is a martial art is great, but insofar as it is related to Wudang Tai Chi Chuan, then that martial art is a secondary thing. That doesn't mean that they didn't use Tai Chi Chuan in the past to defend the monasteries or for monks to defend themselves against bullies. That thing, of course, also happened. But primarily, the way and the reason why Tai Chi Chuan was invented was to aid in the process of becoming an immortal. It was an addition to the more or less static way of developing things, and this happens usually as a result of Neo-Confucianism, where some Neo-Confucianists discovered that actually meditation is a very static thing and we should look at things, try to become more dynamic in such, and this actually gave a push into the Neo-Daoist movement that also was happening at that moment, and Wudang Shan was there a core element in where they said, like, okay, we developed that. And Zhang Sanfeng was one of the people who we consider as one of the last great alchemists, Neidan alchemists, who discovered and developed a whole system. He was part of a group called the Eight Immortals, with Lu Dongping at the head, Chen Tuan, and other people from that period, who were all manifesting a change in Taoism, where a merging of Taoism, Buddhism and Confucianism actually took place, and that is also why we still call this the three religion, one teaching schools. And this is what is essential. So there were things about mental development, because that's central in Buddhism, and there were things about social development, because that's important in Confucianism, and there are things about the relationship between man and nature and the development of immortality, so the completion and the fulfillment of being human. At the moment, when we look at these things, we can see there are a lot more things happening actually than that. And let's look a little bit deeper on this. Pretty much at the core of Zhang Sanfeng teachings is the idea of this diagram we already talked about, the Sin Sing Tu. Sin and Sing are two concepts that we're going to discuss now, because these are essential to understand what it's actually about and what is Tai Chi Chuan all about. And I remember at the moment when I was talking at a certain point with my Shifu Yao Xuan Le, he was talking about Tai Chi Chuan. He was meditating and he was ready with his meditation, and he said, like, my heart now is ready, so I can do Tai Chi. Tai Chi he meant as a lifestyle, so he didn't talk about Tai Chi as a martial arts, although he said this is the way how we practice this. And so he explained a little bit more about that, and he said, like, for the three dantians, the middle dantian is the most important one, and it takes a long time to open up the heart, and you have to undo your karmic knots. This is something that is straight out of Zhang Sanfeng teachings. And at the moment when Zhang Sanfeng talks about it, he says, like, okay, at the moment when you are looking at yourself, you see that you are a character. And this character is the result of all the errors that you made in your life. So what you normally call your personality, within the Chinese medicine perspective, you can say this is your trauma made visible. And that means that all the lines in your face, the aging, the graying of your hair, all these kind of things are the result of wrong styles of living. Chinese medicine from the Huangdi Neijing onward already said that our heritage is to become an immortal, but because of our need to follow our desires and our anger and our fears and so on, we actually get into this pattern of developing all kind of emotions and personally attached love and anger and disappointment and grief and so on and so on. Zhuangzi was a nice example when he was attacked by his students because he was laughing and singing, drinking alcohol and playing music while his wife had just died. And at the moment when he was doing that, they said, Master Zhang, you can't do that because that's against the rights. There was a particular kind of behavior expected to mourn about people who died. And he said very simply, like, look, I always followed my Tao and I always did the things that were important to do to support my wife. And as a result of that, I didn't do anything short to my wife. My wife had a good life. She had the opportunity to do what she wanted. And as a result of that, she is now dead, and I can only be happy for her because she is going through the transformation to her next phase in life. There's many different kind of ideas, and Zhuangzi left open, like if you are reincarnating or you become an immortal or you go to hell or heaven, all these kind of things, they're all optional, and it depends a lot, according to Taoism, on what you are training during your life, where you go to. But the main important thing that Zhang Sanfeng was talking about in his teaching is that your heart has to be the heart of Tao. And this is basically what Zhuangzi also referred to, and what the Tao Te Ching is also about. Your dedication to life has to be in accord with Tao. And at the moment when you are in accord with Tao, then at that moment, automatically you are having the right connection with nature to do the appropriate thing for every situation. This is what is called by my Shifu the Taiji nature of a person. So that means that the interaction with life in general is in such a way that you automatically see the openings to do the right thing. Then you have to, of course, develop a moral consciousness, because if you don't have a moral consciousness, you will see opportunities and you will just take them, and then you become an opportunist. And an opportunist is, of course, somebody who is amoral or immoral, and maybe sometimes moral, depending on the opportunity. In this case, he said you have to first have the heart of Tao. So sin, in that sense, is the sin of Tao. Not just your heart. You don't have to have your heart in the right place, that you care about people and so on. That's not enough. It has to be really dedicated to life as a whole. Then at the moment when we talk about sing, sing is usually translated by Western translators as your nature, because nature, your nature, is something that is associated with Christianity and Islam, and as a result of that, it is very important in Western spirituality. At the moment when you look at nature in Chinese culture, and especially in Taoism, we talk about something else, because your nature is dependent on your bodily form, and that means that bodily form and nature are actually identical to each other. And you see, therefore, in translation, if you look at the dictionary, you see that sing can be translated as sex, as gender, as form, as nature, and so forth and so forth. So a lot of different kind of things. So, for instance, the gender that you are at, that means your physical gender, that is actually also your nature. At the moment when you are crooked and you have a bump in your back because of backtref or something, then at that moment also that is shaping your nature, because function follows form. This is basically what they say. The way to exercise your nature and improve your nature is by improving your body form. So at the moment when you look at your body, you're overweight or you're too skinny, or you are having physical handicaps through which you cannot really move your body, then by doing all kind of exercises and following programs, meditation, diet, fasting, all kind of things that you can do, then at that moment you can see you change your nature, because you start changing your form. And I don't know about your diet, but for instance, when in Taoism we say no alcohol, no drugs, no violence, no aggression, no anger, all kind of things that we try to reduce, so that we can gradually come to realize the difference between having an affinity relationship with the universe or an aversion relationship with the universe. And the affinity relationship with the universe is the most important part, because that means you're connecting with things. And we have a lot of practices for that. And the Dantian meditation is one, Yuan Chi meditation is one, link body practice is one. And by the way, every Christmas I give a workshop for free for everybody to join. So if you want, just connect, maybe become a free member of my Patreon so that you can automatically get information about it when that happens. Or follow me on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or Blue Sky. That's enough advertisement, right? So at the moment when we talk about the nature, then at that moment we can start seeing like, oh, okay, this nature is a result of form, and the basis of your form, that is your Jing, the Jing. We talk about the Jing of Jing, Qi and Shen. And usually these things are translated as essence, as energy, and as spirit. And these translations are also Christianized, and they are Islamified, and so on and so on. They're not the original meanings. If you look at the old texts from, say, before the modernizations of China that happened in the Qing dynasty, then at that moment you can see that with Shen, they usually mean the animal-like awareness of things. That means that your prime awareness that is there to help you root into things. And when you talk about spirit in that sense, they usually talk about Jing Shen. That means that your awareness has a particular kind of coherence, and you have a system. You have an awareness that is following a particular kind of pattern, and so you have pattern recognition for how things work. That is not exactly the same like spirit in the Western sense, is it? And at the moment when we talk about Jing, and we talk usually about the coherence of the body, because what they say in the Chinese medicine classics, including in the Huanglin Jing, is that at the moment when you are having Jing, that is something that you are doing. It is an act that you have where you manifest the maximized form of your body. I remember a long time ago, I was talking with a Native American friend of mine, acquaintance that time. He was coming to a place where I was usually coming, some kind of a youth whatever thing. So this is how long ago it is. And he was talking about Native American spirituality, and he was saying like, oh, for us, the best way to become fully human is by manifesting the maximum form that we can have, so that at the moment when we can optimize our body in its function, then at that moment you can say, okay, now I am a real man, now I am a real woman, and so on and so on. So this was a very similar kind of idea that he was talking about. So that means that then when we talk about Jing, we talk about something that we are doing. And that means that the way how we carry our body, this is where to a large degree Dao Yin, Qigong, Taiquan, and so forth are for. At the moment when we are developing these things, we see that because of the way how our body shapes itself, we can do particular things or we can't, right? So there's particular things like, for instance, people sitting straight in meditation. For some people that is really very difficult. So that means that the level on which they have to train is to get that spinal column straight. So it is not like, oh, you know, anything goes, because for Taoism, nothing goes just like that. There is no such thing as the freedom to do whatever you want. Like you see in the Kundalini movement from lately, and which is the same as the Sannyasa movement, there are a lot of exercises that are basically confirming your ego, and as a result of that you feel really great and you feel really high in things. But in Taoism that is not relevant. In Taoism the thing is that you want to have to develop the freedom to do particular kind of things in the right kind of way, so that you can become an immortal, because that is, as I said before, the heritage that we have. So at the moment when we talk about the Sin Sing Tu, then we talk about the fact that there are particular kind of practices that you need to do to be able to get to that level. And let's talk a little bit more about that now for the last part. And for this, I am going to take this way. Let me see. So at the moment when we talk about Jing, Qi and Shen, we talk about these kind of things. And when we talk about the methodology to get to that point, then you see that Zhang Sanfeng makes suggestions about particular kind of exercises and to do achieve particular kind of things. And on the lowest level, we do static exercise and we do dynamic exercise. And static exercise can be like Zhuang, like you saw me do earlier in the movie, but also about Taiquan and Dao Yin, and about meditation is also static exercise and sometimes dynamic exercise. And these exercises, they are actually helping us to prepare our mind. The meditations I mentioned before, like Dantian, Yuan Chi, and Ling mind body practice. These are meant to help you get ready for the actual spiritual practices. And at the moment when you get to that point, then you learn all kind of things, like you learn to go to the different kind of realms, you learn to go towards the law of fairylands, so that you gradually become more aware of the bigger realm with all different kind of beings, and you can become friends with them basically, and you become maybe even mated or paired with people in the other realms to help become your teacher. Besides that, there is of course also the trance work, and this can be physical trance, it can be mediumship, that can be all kind of other qualities, and it also can be ecstatic travel. That means that you get out of your body and you start traveling the different realms and different heavens and hells and stuff like this, depending on the kind of choices that you make to grow as a spiritual being. These deities that you can have on an altar in your home, in itself, they don't really mean that much, because it is the story that you create with them that actually makes them meaningful, and that makes the experience that you are going through to prepare you for these immortal realms. And this is basically what the Sensing tool is all about. So let me conclude for this moment, and I hope you really liked this video and that you will leave a comment to give me your thoughts about this, and I look forward to see you as a free member on my Patreon or as a paying member to sponsor more movies like this. And also your sponsoring helps me to make more movies, but also I'm going to enter a new PhD study to develop the Daoland program even further and make it all more official and more registered as a bona fide education, which Chinese medicine at this moment and the whole world is not really. So at the moment when I manage that, I have to do all kind of research, and that research needs to be paid. So please join our program and help me finance that project, so that within 3 years time I can go to the government of any European country or America and settle the school as a bona fide independent university where anybody can come study from say 17, 18 to 350.